Hello. Today is August the 3rd, 2020. This is the Service Hero Show. 365 days of awesome. Celebrate success through service. We are the show that tells the inspiring stories of those that are inspiring others. So let's do this. We have our service hero today. I am so honored and excited to have Jennifer Hammond here. She is actually a nominated service hero of our dear friend of the show, Andrea Adams-Miller. Of course, we know her. She is always on the ticker tape down there because she is a friend of the show in many, many ways. That she is with the Keep Smiling movement and the Red Carpet Connection. So, Andrea, thank you for nominating Jennifer. And Jennifer, oh my goodness, as I started checking into what you are doing, you are an incredible woman. Incredible. And you're just as cute as they come. Oh my goodness. Okay, guys. Yes, we have plenty of pictures. In fact, I'm going to have a lot of fun here today with pictures because I pulled them. I mean, how can you just not love that smile?
Oh my gosh, there I am in studio. That's with my bangs. Yep, that's fun. Oh my gosh.
With your bangs. Oh, I love it. Well, see, I'm a bang girl.
What you know about that photo is I was so blessed when I started doing radio. I started at the very top. I started with Sirius XM, literally 40 million subscribers around the world. And I remember being terrified as I walked into the studio. But I just thought, if I could help somebody, it's worth it. It's worth all of the overcoming the fears and the insecurities and that. So it's so funny because some of the smiles you see, I'm just like, I cannot believe this. The studio that I usually get to work in is in Washington, D.C. And it's I've been said in the Guinness Book of World Records because there's so many radio studios under one roof. It used to be the old National Geographic printing press, like where they printed the National Geographics. And it's a warehouse that's just exquisite. So every time I walk in there, and COVID-19, obviously I haven't been able to be in studio for a while, but it's such a blessing to be able to be there and to help people and let your voice go up to a satellite, down to the earth, all over the world. People listen in Australia, New Zealand. Oh, it's amazing.
I love it. I love it. And, I have to say, shout out to the organization. We have HOD that streams us into Nigeria. And then we have some others that are picking us up now and starting to share the messages because this show is highlighting people like yourself, honoring people like yourself that are out there doing the service, that are out there doing the work that if we all do our share, right? And I love that. Yes, you were granted that wonderful opportunity to start where you did. However, it's because of who you are. And you wouldn't be there if you didn't have that servant's heart, that ability to say, okay, I do know something that's going to help change your life for the better. In fact, as we were visiting before we went live, I'm like, okay, I need to learn what you got. I got to learn it because, the good news here is that you are teaching information about things like being successful with our credit score and being able to understand the world of finance and how it works with homes, thus translating into we can do what we want with a nonprofit. Let's talk about that. I mean, that sentence that you shared with me, I'm like, okay, let's have a dose of that, right?
Well, and I would love if it's okay, Tamara, I would love to share with you how I stumbled on hosting a radio show on Sirius.
Absolutely. Because what I want to do is I want to set the stage for exactly that, because you're teaching information that needs to be taught. So with that said, yeah, how did you do it?
So it's interesting because it started with, so now you have to remember, when I first got into real estate, it was 24, 25 years ago. And so the world was a little bit different as far as even just allowing women into real estate investing. And I wanted to get into real estate investing. I didn't want to just be a real estate salesperson. I was actually on my way to law school, and then I was just having such a tough time with the LSAT. And I was like, you know what? I want to get into real estate. So I got my real estate license just so that I could get access to the listings, not because I wanted to. But then the thing that I tripped down was, I had so many of my friends that work for all these nonprofits, and I'll never forget, one of my very first clients that I had was this guy named Thad, and he worked for a nonprofit. And it was amazing because he said, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to buy a house, but I don't know how to do it. And I said, oh, that's easy. You get a grant for your down payment. You get a grant for your closing costs. And then at that time, there was that extra $5,000 grant that was just given to anybody who bought in Washington, D.C. at the time. And so not only would it be less expensive than the rent he was paying, he was going to be building equity in this property, and they were going to give him $5,000. So, of course, you can well imagine, he liked me a little bit. But for me, it was addictive, because I thought, if I could help people wipe away their student loans and stay on whatever path they want to stay on, but they just need a little bit of financial literacy, which I was already embarrassed because I didn't want to admit I didn't know things. But when I found that when I made it into a game and I made it playful and fun, they were super excited. So I get this call from this woman. So I was addicted to doing some sales. I get this call from this woman, and her name's Monisha. And Monisha says to me, so I am interviewing real estate agents. I work at Discovery Channel, and I would like to interview you. And I was like, really? Why me? And she was so cute. She said, well, I had 3 different people bring up your name, and none of the 3 people know each other. And I thought, okay, so come on in. We're both in our 20s. She comes on in. So she tells me right before she comes in, she said, my dad wants to come. And I was like, oh, well, why wouldn't you want your dad to come? And now my dad wasn't really financially literate, but I thought, well, maybe her dad's probably pretty protective. And my dad didn't even want to come the first time I bought real estate. So I thought, at least he's interested. My parents were never interested. And I said, so you should let your dad come. And she goes, all right, but this is my decision. And I thought, oh, I like her.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, she came in, we went through the whole process. She picked me, yay. And then we got to the end of it, and her dad said, I've never met a real estate agent like you. He said, you're much more interested in educating somebody versus just making a sale. And I said, well, I'm not interested in the sale. I can make much more money doing real estate investing. I said, the only reason I do this is because if I teach you to fish, you could fish for a lifetime. Yeah. But if I just teach you if you just do one, I mean, did you learn anything? Could you do it again? So I like teaching skills. And so sure enough, I find out he is on Sirius XM. He's in the Radio Talk Show Hall of Fame. He's super famous. I didn't know. I mean, he was just dad. Right. And that's all that mattered, was I wanted to make sure that she was taken care of, and that dad had any questions he had were answered. And so anyway, needless to say, he said, when I buy my next piece of real estate, I'm going to buy it through you. And I said, oh yeah, people say that all the time. They never call me. I don't care. I could care less. But he calls me 3 years later. So this is back in like 07, 06, 07. And the market is starting to take a tumble. Oh, right. And sure enough, he goes, like, you remember that time, right? 07, 08. Yeah. So I knew before I had been in real estate law. I was a paralegal. And so I knew about short sales and foreclosures. And I knew this was not going to be good. For so many reasons, this was not going to be good. And sure enough, I couldn't believe it. We get into this, and he says, oh, you know what? I would like to ask you a bunch of questions about what we should do. Let's get your advice. And I said, okay. And he said, so come to the radio station tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. And we're going to have this conversation live on the air. And I was like, no, that sounds like a very bad idea. I don't want to do that. How many people are going to be listening? And he's like, well, we have about 40 million subscribers. And I was like, what? No. And he said, if I don't know this, and he has a little bit of an ego, little ego. He was like, if I don't know this, he said, there are lots of people who don't know this, and you need to come in because other people are going to need to know this. And I was like, okay, well, for that reason, I'll come, because if it's going to help people, I'll come. Otherwise, I was very shy, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so I get in there, and then we start going through the questions, and then he starts opening the phone lines and letting all these other people call me. And I was like, what is going? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, what is going on? Everybody's calling. And I thought, I don't know what I'm going to do here. So I just keep answering questions. And then it got to be more and more fun, because I was like, come on, send me some more questions. And so then he would periodically just have me on as a guest. And it was fun. I'd go to the studio, I'd answer questions, and I'd leave. And then one day after the show, he said, I realized that your mom died of cancer. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, I was just diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I need your help. And it's one of those moments you're like, okay, whatever you need. The answer is yes. I have no idea what I agreed to, but the answer is yes. And my heart was going 90 miles an hour, thinking of the pain I had gone through losing my mom to cancer. And she was an alcoholic, she was a drug addict. I mean, there were all sorts of things. It was a rough time, but watching her die of cancer, it was awful. And so I said to him, I'll do whatever you need. What you tell me what you need, I'll do it. And he said, well, so I need you to come in and host my show on Wednesdays. It's called Wealth Building Wednesdays. I was like, what?
Wealth Building Wednesdays?
Yes, and he was on every week. And so I was like, I don't know radio. I don't know how to host it. I was like, what are you talking about? This is like a crazy idea. You think that I was just like, but I wasn't gonna, that was all going on inside my head. I didn't say that outside, because again, if somebody has cancer and they ask me for help, I'm just going to nod and say yes, and I'm going to figure out a way to help. I'm just going to find a way. And so, sure enough, he goes off and he goes to it was months he was off, and I was doing his shows on Wednesdays, and he had like a lawyer who did tax tip Tuesdays, and he had all these other people helping, but I was Wednesdays. So he comes back, and he's back on a Wednesday, and I was like, yay! And he said, well, the good news is, get this, the good news is, he said, I'm cancer free. And I was like, yay! And he said, the bad news, you're fired. And I was like, whew, I'm so relieved. And he goes, you better not look relieved. He goes, what's wrong with you? Why are you looking relieved? And this is like a dad yelling at you. You're like, what do you mean? I said, I'm relieved because I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't do radio. I don't know how to do a talk show. I don't know how to do this. And he started laughing, and he goes, SiriusXM really likes you, and you have an audience. You have fans that want to have you have your own radio show. He said, so you're going to have so SiriusXM is going to offer your own show. And he said, you better say yes. Okay. Well, so I didn't mean to have one.
I absolutely love it. So let me introduce you to your audience right now, because you are hitting the nail on the head with our audience. This show was developed because I am the president and co-founder of a nonprofit that supports people affected by cancer throughout the world. And we have many right now of our ambassadors and one of our board members here watching you share this story, and I bet they are just saying, oh, there's no accidents here, Andrea Adams-Miller. Thank you very much for nominating this amazing woman that served one of our fellow buddies without knowing that he was a buddy, but that's what we call ourselves. And one of our buddies here, one of our ambassadors, is Rachel Johnson. And let me tell you, our buddies are those people that are affected by cancer and those people that support those people affected. So both sides, they both need buddies. She is one of our buddies. We have one of our board members, an Emmy Award winning videographer and director of documentaries, Skip Thomas. Thank you for being with us. We have the ambassador of our chat, the very first ambassador of our chat, Helene Wilson. Thank you for being here. We have one of our senior ambassadors right now with us, Sherry McQueen. Sherry, so glad you're here. And we have others. Helene is sharing, sorry for your loss of your mother who passed away from cancer. You see, we understand that. We say that they've gained their wings.
Yep.
So we are here with you. You are welcome Welcome. You are now a fellow buddy. If you would like to be a buddy, we
Yes.
are here for you. Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. What a small world. And your journey to where you are right now is one that is absolutely spectacular. I asked for a link to share a video that I do have that we can share because it tells your story, which is to see this is to understand your heart and why it is that you are such a giving soul. I mean, you everything you just shared in your story of how you ended up at the top, and you absolutely, Jennifer, my dear, deserve to be exactly where you are with the audience that you have, because you have the knowledge and you're willing to share it with a giving heart, and that is incredibly unique and rare, and you have it. So let's share your story, okay? I'm going to bring that up, take us down, and then we'll come back and talk after. So let me grab it here. I know I've got it, and this app is, I really seriously loaded it with so many pictures. It's like, okay, I know it's here somewhere. Uh-oh. Well, you know what? I'm going to reload it here. It'll take me 2 seconds to get it on the screen share, and we will then bring it up to the line. Okay, it's in the studio, so I'm going to bring that up, take us down, share it, and then we will be back to talk.
I had a client who was on the radio. We were in the middle of a real estate transaction, and he said, I have questions, but I want you to come on the radio. We were just talking about the foundation of real estate, and I realized if you could just help people understand the principles, then they could make better decisions in real estate. We started getting an audience. Then they finally asked me if I would do my own radio show. Thanks for calling the Jennifer Hammond Show. We're always very interested in helping you with any of your questions. What's your question today? And so with the radio show, I actually get to help many, many people. My childhood was difficult. I didn't have that happy, safe, secure home. And I had a wonderful military family who decided to adopt me. And I got to finish out my senior year of high school. I ended up with a scholarship to college. I went on for a 2-year, a 4-year degree, and then, of course, my master's. And I would have never graduated if it hadn't been for that family who just wanted to help me. They really made me understand what a home would be like if it were safe. So it's such a great gift now to be able to give that to people, to know that I can affect change in other people's lives. I very much admire the leadership that we have with TTR Sotheby's International Realty. They're interested in our professional growth as well as making sure that we have that nurturing family atmosphere where we're helping the community and we're also helping each other. The process that I take people through to make sure that it's not just a house, but it's the right home for them, that is something that is really powerful and an incredible gift for me to be able to give to somebody.
Wow, right? I mean, my goodness. I wanted to lay that story out. I mean, when I've watched it now a few times, and whoa, you know, well, the fact that it brings tears to you too, I'm feeling like I'm in good company then, because it really did share the story with us before the video, and then the video just even brings that much more home, and it tells more of the story and why it is that you now are helping in multiple different layers of the onion, let's just put it that way, because you're educating on the radio and you're affecting millions of people throughout the world, educating them on things that we all need to learn, and we may think we know. However, as we start diving in, we start realizing we now know we didn't know, right? Yeah. And there's so much of it, and it's always changing. And so that, plus then your experience because of your heart and the kind of person that you are, it comes from, it sounds like, much because of your experience in your high school years, or even probably before, and then what was it like when you were in high school, and then all of a sudden you're in one situation, and then there's this military family that gives you a true opportunity of a home and a family?
Well, it was amazing because from my viewpoint, my mom and dad, they made very bad financial decisions really early. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and listening to my parents fight about money, and then hearing all of a sudden our cars being repossessed in the middle of the night. And then they divorced when I was 3 years old, and they still, kind of off and on were together until I was about 6. And then by the time I reached high school, my mom had been investigated multiple times for being an unfit mother. She was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and it was one of those things where my brother so I'm in high school, and my brother doesn't even go to the same high school as me. He is not only a drug addict, but he is, from now and then being a drug dealer and selling drugs to kids. And my mom is, contributing to this awful, terrible situation. And all of a sudden I'm in high school, and this other girl, she decides to take me home and introduce me to her parents who live on the military base. And of course, I'd never been in a military base or a military situation. And it was a little bit intimidating and scary. Ironically, it's funny, and now I've learned so much about my own family after a lot of research. I found out my point. But this military family, they had seen the abuse, and my mom was being investigated again for being an unfit mother, and my sister she had gotten removed from the home, and she was put in a foster home, and in fact, a bunch of foster homes. And then my brother had gone, after being arrested a few times, he had gone and he was living with my dad. So I was the only one left with my mom. And so all of the focus of her anger,
I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but the film we're having a little bit of a technical issue with Jennifer
and her soul.
Jennifer, we're having a little bit of a problem and you froze for just a little bit, so we didn't get all of the story about your mom. If you wouldn't mind just kind of rewinding a bit and letting us know, because last I heard, and I'm sure probably others, was that you were the one that was at home still with mom. And so, of course, you're going to be the one that if her habits are to target and to focus her unhealthy, anger, if you will, towards one person or towards others, you were the only one there. And so they were aware of it. Your sister had already been removed, and that's where the last we heard.
And my brother was also gone by that point. He had been he was a drug addict, and he had moved away as well. So I was the only one left. And like you just said, and I think you probably understand that because of her alcoholism and her drug addict and all of the things that she had not done well in life, she very much blamed me. And she said that she wished that I never was born. Oh. And it was extremely painful. And then there was this girl that I knew because of my auto mechanics class.
I love it. Auto mechanics class.
Auto mechanics. So I went from auto mechanics with grease underneath my fingernails over to my dance class, because I was in a dancing drill team where we performed at halftime and stuff like that. So I was a weird kid in a lot of ways, but I would never fit in with anybody. I was not intelligent. I was a solid B student. I wasn't an A student. I wasn't a C student. That's another whole story of itself. But the interesting part was this military family, that when I remember the girl, her name is Brandy. She was my friend from auto mechanics. We were the only two girls in auto mechanics. So we bonded, as you can well imagine. But so she brings me home, and I'm in the bedroom, but the houses are so small. I hear her talking to her parents, and her parents are like, "You can't keep her. I understand when you find a puppy, you can bring her home. When you find a bird with a broken wing, you can bring it. You can't bring a person home." I hear her father yelling at her, "You can't bring a person home." And I'm in the back hiding underneath the bed going, I wonder if they're going to let me stay, you know, because I just didn't want to go home. I was so afraid of what was going to happen. It was physical as well as mental abuse. So I just wanted to stay. And then they let me stay. And if you know anything about military, you know that somebody who's not part of a military family staying for more than a couple days on a military base, you have to go through a whole lot of hoops and stuff. And so he did. He went through all of this, and they let me stay, which was amazing because I was ready to quit high school. I was ready to just leave and just quit everything as much as I could. I was just trying to get away from my mother and away from the drugs and all that stuff. I hated it all. And I didn't think, and I'd already been told how stupid I was. I was never going to go to college or anything like that. And it was just amazing. So they let me come live with them, which was amazing for so many reasons, because again, when you just have one person say that they believe in you, you know, even though I wasn't the bird with the broken wing, I was broken and I needed help. And they were so good to me to keep me and let me go all the way through my senior year and graduate, which was incredible. I mean, and how I got to college was another story in itself. But just, I mean, I feel so incredibly blessed that this military family, and that's when I really learned how much a military family, they give so much to be a part of the military. So much, especially enlisted, they worked so hard. It's amazing. And their dedication and their loyalty, I had never experienced that because, you know, my mom was an alcoholic. She was an artist and she was very creative and very talented, but she was extremely tortured soul. And then, of course, like I said, later in life, she got cancer and died.
You know, now it makes sense why you had the Patch Adams, you know, because I picked these because this is very much in, you know, I was thinking about my community and the buddies and everybody, you know, and this is what we talk about. You treat a disease, you know, you treat a disease, you win, you lose, you win, you lose, you treat a person guaranteed you'll win no matter what the outcome. That is absolutely so true. You know, win or lose, which we see that all the time in our community. I'm a survivor myself. And the fact that that you put your love, and we say humor, so laughter is the tonic and relief, you know, it helps so much with the pain, and you know, and so humor, then the hope, heart, hugs, and a lot of love. And you put that into the community, right? And that is right there. You're guaranteed you'll win no matter the outcome. And, you know, now that with you sharing that story about all of it, now, before your mother passed away, were you able to reconcile and was there any kind of you know, healing that was able to take place?
Yeah, it was really interesting. I had gone back to see her. I was actually, ironically, very close to her mother, my grandmother. And my mother decided to, when she, at the very end of her life, she had decided that she was trying to get to the point where she could get away from the drugs and the alcohol. And she was trying to repair, ironically, her relationship with her mother. And I had a phenomenal relationship with my grandmother just because, you know, I was the granddaughter and there's a very special bond there. And I had decided to go to Washington, D.C. And my grandmother, a lot of my family was killed in the concentration camps. And my grandmother came over from Poland. And so she had been through a lot. And she went to Washington, D.C. and made 18 cents an hour working for the Department of Agriculture. She's one of the women who's in the Baseball Hall of Fame because she's one of those amazing women. She's amazing. So I admired my grandmother so much because she had gone through all these hardships. But my grandfather apparently was the alcoholic. And he died when I was young. And he passed that on to my mother. So ironically, my mother had moved back to Fort Lauderdale area to be close to her mother. And I think somehow she sensed that something was wrong, even though she didn't know until one day she fell down in a park and she didn't have any ID or anything on her. And they took her to the hospital and they found that she had a brain tumor larger than a grapefruit, not an orange, a grapefruit. And that's when I think her and her mother, they started to make peace. And then I just got on a plane and came down and I started talking to her. And, we had some amazing conversations before she went.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, because that's something that in our community, and for those that are facing cancer, whatever our journey is, because we talk about the hero's journey, we talk about healing through connections, and that healing through connections, it's whatever it is going to happen on that other side, and whatever, but we can heal through the connections. And so the fact that you were able to, with your mother, have those moments of healing through the connection before she gave her wings.
Yeah, and my sister and my brother both did not have that. Neither one of them got to a point where they were ready to forgive her or have those conversations. And neither one ever did that. And I feel, I feel like that's a hole in their life that is too bad that doesn't. And I think it should happen. You should have those conversations before it's too late, and say those words, forgiveness, it's about you. And I think that everyone needs to realize that it's so much about you and being able to really heal and know that we're all walking this life and we're all going to make mistakes, and some are going to make worse ones or more painful, but it doesn't matter, you should
You are such a bright star in our, for all of us to hear this story. So many, all of those that are watching throughout the world right now, I bet they're all thinking the same thing. Wow, we are getting to hear from someone we know. I'm sure many of them know you for what it is that you are on the radio sharing, and, but they may not know the story behind the story. And the story behind the story, that's the inspiration. And you right now are bringing, I bet you anything, there is, especially in the way that this all came about, I have no doubt in my mind that there are people right now that need to hear from you about just exactly what you shared, because we all have our stories. We all have those moments. And if you don't take those moments to forgive while you can, it's like you said, your going forward is now very different, and most likely feeling a lot better than at some point in time. I mean, your brother and sister may never feel it, but if they ever do, the awareness that they didn't get that opportunity or take that opportunity, you did. And in doing so, you now may inspire others to say, you know what, maybe I do need to let that, whatever that history is. And you had a really, really huge one. You could have said, I just don't care. I'm going on with my life. I'm sorry that this is happening. Goodbye. But you didn't. You went. And in doing so, you served not only yourself. Now this story is going to serve so many others that are thinking, okay, you know what? This is the past. Right now, the here and present, there is an opportunity it's only a short opportunity. And if I don't take it, I may regret it later. So it might be good to go on faith. And listening to Jennifer's story, forgiveness is a very, very healing thing,
it really is. And that's the interesting thing, because I think me showing up to at one point, unfortunately, my grandmother and my mother were in the same hospital. And literally I was going from one floor down to the other. And, both of them would become like little children and little bratty. And they would be like, why are you spending so much time with her? Why are you spending so much time with her? I cannot believe what's wrong with you two women. And it was really funny, because I was like, so we can get you willed into her room. Why don't you two talk? I am here with each of you creating this relationship. And again, both of them were not perfect people, and I'm not a perfect person, but it was really interesting, because the more I could laugh and make them laugh and have them tell stories. Like if there was one thing I could share, is that I learned so much by listening to my mother's story, you know, taking away how painful it was to have a mother who constantly said that I wasn't good enough, that I was stupid, that she wished I was never born, that I ruined her life because I was born. I mean, all those things, that's so painful. And but to sit there with her when she had cancer and say, so, you know, talked about, you know, your first love, you enjoy, live there, and getting them telling stories, and that light that shines is something I will never forget. And that's why I say some of those amazing last minute or right before she died conversations were so incredible that I'm so incredibly blessed to have. And I would ask anyone, if you have someone you haven't had that conversation with, even if it's just someone you need to pick up the phone and tell them how much you appreciate them and how much they changed your life, make that wanted to say how much you've meant to me or how much I appreciated whatever you did, and just let that person know, because that's something that, again, the conversation, it needs to happen. It's so healing for everybody involved.
Absolutely, without a doubt, this message absolutely needed to be shared today, and especially today. And I've been dating these shows August the 3rd, 2020. That is on purpose, because right now during this time, people be able to look back and say what was happening on August the 3rd, 2020. So many things throughout the world. Our world is a little different today than it looked last year at this time. And there are a lot of people that are struggling with that. And so I don't know, she's frozen for you guys, but I have a feeling it will all work out here. Okay, we have a little pixelation. And in a moment, I have a feeling she'll be back. And Jennifer, I am honored that you were born. I agree 100%. And I want to say that those that are here, you are not alone. We are here for you. Okay. You know, you were lost a little bit, Jennifer. I'm so sorry. You got really pixelated and froze. So we heard you talking about contacting someone that you haven't talked to for a while, and then the fact that everything is going on like it is right now, and there are a lot of people feeling very disjointed and feeling upside down, and it sounds as though, it looks as though you were sharing something very important. I'd love to hear what that was, and then I'd love to go on and talk about a few more things about what it is that you are sharing out there, and why it is that you're doing that. So what was it that you were just sharing?
So one of the things, especially with COVID-19 and everything that's happened this year, as you said, it's so interesting because August is my mother's birthday. She's in August as well. And it was funny, before she died, one of the things that I realized was that there's so many times when you get busy with your life and you forget to tell people that have in one way or another helped you or in some way affected you. And even if it's somebody you don't think cares or whatnot, sending a text message, I would encourage you, if you're listening right now and you're thinking, what could I do to make a difference? Believe me, when I've gotten text messages or emails from people, and it just is so powerful. So you have that power to do that. And I would just suggest, make sure you do that, because it's incredible how much your words can help someone else in a healing way.
Absolutely. It's that heart. Again, the humor, the hope, the heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love can make a difference in this world. And the hope, I want to go to the hope, because okay, you have a book, 101 resources for veterans, and we know now, and you got a couple of different versions. I saw a couple different versions of the cover. However, the title's the same, and so 101 resources for veterans, and you're frozen again. Hopefully it will unfreeze. The information that's being shared right now is so important. And this happens a lot whenever it's important information. Okay, so you're frozen now. Okay, so you have this book. Tell us about it.
So this is so fun. So the one you have up on the screen is the first one. This is the second one that just came out July 4th. This is the second edition. And the reason is so funny because I did all these radio shows on Sirius XM. It was so fun. They would ask me, hey, do you want to do something for Veterans Day? Or you want to do, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I want to do something. And then I would put together these amazing panels, and I did these panels up on Capitol Hill. They let me take over the Veterans Affairs Committee room. This is, of course, before COVID, but I did it for 5 years in a row on the House side and on the Senate side. And I bring in all these congressmen, and oh my gosh, you got one. And I was amazing. I would do these things. And then we would talk about what's happening on the Hill for veterans. And then we would talk about the resources. And then all of a sudden people would just inundate me with phone calls and all this stuff. And they would say, hey, they talked about that resource and this resource. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do I make sure we keep getting these resources out there? And so that's when the book was born. It's not all the resources, because there's literally thousands, but I wanted to kind of get the top. So there's about 150 resources in there, and they're everything from government programs, grant programs, to have veterans buy houses, start a business, write a book, start a podcast, whatever it is. And that's really what I want. And I mean, from Bible studies to the hospitals, I've had so many veterans tell me, hey, I didn't know you had a veteran program for that, or I didn't know there was this. And it has been such a blessing. And that's why I have to keep updating it, because I need to make sure the resources are the most fresh. And again, it's my way of giving back, because I'm so incredibly blessed that family took me in. I mean, I have no idea if I would even be alive today, because I was so convinced I was a mistake and that I wasn't supposed to be here. And I don't think I'd be here if it weren't for that family, that military family. And so being able to give back and do this. So this is a project that I just do out of my heart. We're pour thousands of dollars into it. I give the books away. But if you go to Amazon, like right now, at 99 cents, we have it as an ebook. So if you just want to go grab one, you can go grab a 99 cents one. Again, I don't make any money on that. It's just one of those things I do so that we can keep getting the resources out there. And part of it is what you just said, hope, is to know that someone cares about you. Right. Wherever you are. And so many people, when they transition out of the military, and here's another incredible thing, is that I have so many veterans that have called where they were about to commit suicide. Yeah. And they didn't, because they found out about a resource, and they also, because they had hope that they had never heard before. And that hope of just letting someone know that you care and that you're interested is the same thing as what happened to me. Somebody said that I mattered and that I was worth something. And the same thing with veterans. They've gone through a lot, and now when they come back, they just need to know that you care. And as you probably know from your group, a lot of them get cancer. And they need a support group. They need people to say, I care. And it's not okay to just commit suicide. It's not.
No. In fact, I am a part of another group that I'm a training director, and we in Colorado Springs, because there's a big base there, and we did an event, Pathway for Vets, and it was to help them to transition from active service into into society. And we actually had one person that came to this that you could tell that there was something going on. And then one of my compadres, if you will, one of the other executive training directors took this person under their wing and found out a little bit. And then the story now, over a year later, the person was close to that very thing and was basically living on the streets, got cleaned up somewhere to come to the event, then decided that, wanted to come back. How was that going to happen? My co-executive director decided to, find a way to pick the person up, wouldn't let him pick him up anywhere close to where possibly there was anywhere kind of to live. So kind of gave that warning signal. Well, found out then later that needed some resources, got the resources, got some of the others that were speakers that day to help because of the kind of event it was. That person now is living in their own place, has a job, and is a father. And so, now is able to spend time with their child. And that is one example, but one example, then another example, and then everybody working together. And I see you here with Gary Sinise. He is such an amazing. I absolutely, he's one of those ones that I just give him props left and right, up and down. Unconditional love sent his way because of what he's been willing to do to bring awareness to so many in such an incredible, respectable way. And love seeing that. Now, I have a question for you, because on your post here, it said for Father's Day. Now, which father is this?
This is my dad. This is the one who left when I was 3 years old. And so, I will also tell you, this is we don't have enough time to know the whole story, but basically I had to find him. I found him in Las Vegas, and this is before the internet. I remember I worked for a law firm. I wrote my dad this really long letter, and I remember the first line, which is funny because I wasn't trying to make it a tearjerker. But the first line of this letter, because the law firm I found him, they had hired some private investigator. Somebody had decided that I should find my dad. And so they said, we'll get his address and you write him a letter. You don't have to talk to him, but just write him a letter. And the first thing I wrote was, "Hi, I'm your daughter. Do you want to know me?"
Oh, wow.
And when he got the letter, he called. It was a very awkward phone call, to say the least, but over the years, we have rekindled that, and come to find out, this is what I meant by when you sit down with somebody who has cancer or who has COVID or is really fighting something, it's a time to ask them questions, because instead of just focusing on how much it hurt me that he left, one of the things I realized was I wanted to know what was his growing up? What was his mom like? Well, his mom died within the first year of his life. And he got a stepmother who didn't want any of the kids from the first marriage, and they shipped him off to military boarding school. So he got to see his dad twice a year, once for Easter for 1 week and once for Christmas for 1 week. And that was it. He had no family life. He lived at a military boarding school basically his whole life. And so from his viewpoint, he just didn't really know. He didn't know how to be a dad. And when I asked him that question, which is interesting now, so many years later, realizing that when I asked him that question, I think he finally thought, well, I just don't know how. And so over the years, I also have pushed him and pushed him, and now he has a relationship with all 3 of his children.
What a great story. I mean, you are full of these inspiring stories. And I know you are inspiring so many others right now. And so, let's get back to, you are an incredible woman. And, I had to bring this picture up because, we have, we have, the Smiles movement, and, there's Ken, and you had this on there. So I thought, okay, I got to share it. Now, you are now in with the big guys. You're spending time interviewing and sharing and caring and having some fun too, which that's inspiring in itself. Getting to share and educate, and then be able to show up and meet people that it's like, okay, look, I'm here with so-and-so. Look, I'm on this show. Look, I'm doing this and I'm sharing this, not to brag. What I'm doing right now is sharing that. Look at your story. Look at the story of, you nearly, you could have nearly given up, right? And yet, because of this military family and the daughter that took you home like a puppy and making the case, like, can't we keep her? And then you doing the heavy lifting. You have done the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And you, I'm sure, I can only imagine what the story is. I'd love to have you back sometime. We'll go into the story of education and all of that, how you got into college and that piece of it. Yet the fact that you did, the fact that you kept going, and then the fact that it makes absolute sense that it wasn't about you when you were doing the educating of, finding out about mortgages and selling and everything. You literally wanted to learn, and so you could help others, and so that they, most likely, what I'm thinking, am I right? And so that they wouldn't have the kind of family situations happening that you ended up growing in, and you could change the dynamics of families through having some help in their finances, and then not having that stress that happens that destroyed your family.
Exactly. You got it nail on the head. I mean, it's so perfect, because that's my passion, is to really change that basic knowledge, and also to get past the stigma of saying I don't know or I don't understand, because even like your credit score, it's amazing. It's an algorithm. And if you understand this, it's amazing how much it can change your future. If you understand tax laws, but you need to have a relationship with a tax person. I talk about building an A team, and I'm so passionate about making sure you understand that, so that it never happens to you, where again, we lost our house in the middle of the night, not only the cars in the middle of the night, but next thing you know, we are on a foreclosure notice on the front of our house, and we lost it. And so now, being in real estate, I want to make sure nobody else has that happen. So I'm very passionate about it.
And you can tell. And so how do people follow you on the radio? On now, it's Sirius, right? Isn't that how you say it? Sirius?
Sirius XM. So Sirius was one satellite company and XM was another, and they came together. Ironically, they have recently merged also with Pandora. So we're on Sirius XM. So people can SiriusXM.com/on demand, and you can just search Jennifer Hammond. And the same thing, if you go onto the Facebook, you can pop up on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I'm on LinkedIn too. I love LinkedIn. Is one of my favorite new ones to be on, but I love it. And I'm so happy for your show. I got to watch a few episodes before I popped on today, and I love what you do. I mean, I think the fact that you highlight people who are doing good in the world, because again, there's not enough good news, and we need to highlight that. So I am so incredibly grateful for all that you are doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for that, because that's what this show is all about, is to give and truthfully. My buddies know this. I have made it very clear now. The whole reason that this show started and why it's still in this format is that, number one, it's easy for them to find, and number two, it started on actually my personal page, because I had no friends there, because I was building a nonprofit. I didn't know you had a cap, and I didn't start it on the buddies page because I didn't want to be in their face. However, they needed to have a reason every day to keep going and be inspired, because if we turn on the news, sometimes those stories are not so inspiring. Wink, wink. And so there are so many people like yourself and so many others, all the service heroes now that we've highlighted, that whatever it is that you need that inspiration for that day, most likely there is a service hero that has shared their inspiring story to inspire them and others. And so thank you for that. I am going to give you a moment. I am going to drop myself from the line. I am going to let you have a moment to inspire, share whatever you're feeling inspired to share, a nugget, something, and then I'll come up, and then we'll close out the show, okay?
So one thing I would share is kind of what I know I was popping in and out, but the one thing, if there was one way to share a smile with somebody, I know everybody's wearing these masks all over the world, but the one thing, if there was one thing you could do, is text message someone today. someone that you appreciate, and just let them know. And maybe it's somebody you just saw an hour ago, or maybe it's somebody you haven't seen in years and years and years. Text message, know how much you appreciate them, because believe me, that might be the one thing that really brightens their day. It could keep them from being on the edge. It could keep them from yelling at somebody else. Again, we can change the world person by just spreading smiles and making sure that we acknowledge and communicate. I mean, one of the biggest things is communicating your appreciation and your love, because there's love everywhere. We just have to actually look around and focus on it. It's about shifting our focus, because again, just like watching the news, they focus on the negative, but you could focus on the positive. And so I would say one thing, if you could do one thing that I would be so grateful for, is find someone in your life who has touched you and tell them how much you've appreciated them. That would be the one thing I would share. And I'm so grateful. Yay!
Oh my goodness, I love it. And the smiles. Keep smiles in the movement, right? This smiles. And like Andrea Adams-Miller always talks about, is when you smile, it actually does, because she's got that medical background. A lot of people don't know her background is actually, it's scientific, and she's an amazing woman, and she talks about how it actually changes the chemical makeup in the way that we feel, because it is the feel good chemicals, and that we need those. We need them so much. I was thinking as you were saying that about texting, and if someone feels comfortable, wouldn't it be cool to take a selfie smile in that text to send and say, I'm smiling thinking of you, and because not everybody would, but I'm just thinking, wow, that would be like wow, what a thought, because those little things can make a huge difference literally in someone's day. So, I am so grateful that you came on, and that Andrea and Ken and Barry, support you, and that you're part of their community, and that Andrea was like, you really need to have Jennifer on the show, and now I see why. And for some reason, I do believe it was meant to be today, that there will be those that need to hear what you shared, and for whatever reason, and hopefully it's a lot of people, because there's so many different things that we touched on, so many things we could continue to touch on. However, I believe we touched on quite a few that will hopefully make a very, very big difference in someone's day-to-day and their life going forward. So let's finish this out and say, today on August the 3rd, 2020, the Service Hero Show, 365 days of awesome, celebrate success through service. We have definitely made the case that Jennifer Hammond, you are indeed a service hero. You serve so many, and your life actually, in truth, I believe, has served you to put you on a path world with your kindness, with your heart, your intelligence, and your fortitude to not give up, to keep going, and to find that way to win. You are an example to us all, an inspirational example and story to say this, and that is, no matter what, take that moment in time to forgive and find a way to unconditionally find some higher level agape love, and let someone go with that love and not hold that resentment in your heart. And that can make a big difference. And that in itself, those stories that you have shared with us today have definitely proved you are today's service hero. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
It's a powerful, powerful conversation. And thank you so much for that honor. It's amazing to have this conversation with you. And I am so incredibly honored by you, how authentic you are. And I can feel how much you love and how much you care. It comes through in everything you say, your eyes, just everything you do. And I I'm really grateful for the fact that you do this every single day. So thank you for what
You're
you
welcome.
do.
Every day but Wednesday. We are dark on Wednesday, but yeah. So thank you so very much. And you know what? If you ever want to come over to the buddies, come over and have some fun with us in our closed group. And in fact, tonight is what? Today is Wednesday or Monday. It's Magic Monday, guys, in the group. So at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, we will have our chat in the Chemo Buddies for Life community. Go over to the page, go to groups, go to the community. If you haven't joined, join. It is a safe place. So we do monitor it, and what takes place stays there, and we are supporting those people, like I shared during the story, during today's show. All right. Thank you so very much for being here with us, and make it a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.